Hey, welcome to Kate's Crafts. I'm Kate. Today I would like to share with you a sympathy card that I made using Distress Oxide's new Uncharted Mariner and Pine Needle. Here I have the Fawn Sunray Stencil that I'm going to use to ink blend once I figure out exactly where it is that I want to put it on my paper. And this is just a panel of Recollections 110-pound cardstock, because for some reason I decided to cut a panel the other day and I had an extra one lying down on my table, or lying around I should say, and I decided to use it. So here I'm just going in with the new Distress Oxide ink, Uncharted Mariner. I hadn't watched any of the release videos that Tim Holtz had put out because I was actually doing my first market, which I talk about in a previous video, and I didn't really know what color was the mystery color, as I had pre-ordered it. I wasn't going to pre-order it, then I did, and then I didn't, and then I decided, okay, I'll do it. And I talk a little bit about it again in my previous haul video that I just posted not too long ago. Anyway, so I wasn't sure what the color was until later on in the afternoon that day, when a friend of mine had sent me a video clip or a picture of something. I think it was a picture, and saying it was the new blue, and I thought, oh, okay, well, new blue. Alright, and didn't really think much of it because it's a blue. And when I got it in the mail and I tried it out, at the time of this recording, it was the same evening, I thought, wow, this is a really neat blue, because it's almost like not a greenish blue, I don't know what kind of blue, it's a familiar blue, if you will. I'm gonna go with that. It's a familiar blue. I don't know quite how to explain the feeling it invokes, but it's a familiar blue. Let's just leave it at that. So anyway, once I'm happy with the blend going back and forth between the pine needles and the Uncharted Mariner, I will blend those two together as best that I can. There's a little bit of a halo between the two, but it's not a big deal. I kind of like how that turned out. And because I want to trim down my panel, I'm going to use the largest of the inside out stitched rectangle dies by Fawn. I tell you, I have seriously gotten my use out of these dies. If I can't recommend any kind of border die, this would be the only one that I ever recommend. Well, not really, but if you're going to get your first border die, I really suggest this one because it is so versatile. So because I didn't like the edges too much, I'm going to go in with what's left on my blender brush and kind of blend out the edges and bring that softness into the middle, so it's not too stark white, which I like the contrast, but at the same time I kind of wanted to keep it toned down a little bit. I didn't want it too bold or flashy because this is going to be a sympathy card. Now, I don't really have too many sympathy stamps in my stash because, let's face it, we all want the cute critters and the fun paper packs. So I decided, well, put your big girl pants on and get the stuff that isn't so fun. So I got a sympathy Say It With Stamps stamp and quartering die from the Paper Crafters Workshop not too long ago. And since the time of this recording, they have sold out of this, so I assume that it didn't last long. The Paper Crafters Workshop has a What's New Wednesday, I believe it is, and on Wednesdays they kind of give a rundown on Facebook and again air it on YouTube as to what's new in their store. So I actually was able to catch it and decided, well, maybe this would be a nice addition to my collection. So I ended up getting it, and I thought, well, since I've got it, I might as well make a I'm sorry card. And it's got a lot of great sayings. If you'd like to see the rest of the sayings in the stamps, go check out my last video. It gives a close up on all the different little stamps or I should say sentiments in the stamp set. So anyway, I'm just playing around with placement, and you can kind of see the mess above my card. I tried cutting it all out and seeing how it looked, but I ultimately ended up sticking with this, and I just cut out one extra back piece to the sorry just to kind of give it a little more depth. I didn't want to give it too much depth, as I'm going to be putting foam tape on the back of this panel to kind of prop it up. So once I've glued that down and I have an idea of that, I will place it on my card and see how I like it. So I'll fiddle with it a little bit, as the banner die is just slightly bigger than the sentiment, but in the end it didn't really bother me much. I thought it looked just fine. So once I'm happy with that idea of placement, I will add more glue into the backside of these two stacked pieces of sorry paper. So I thought about doing the with sympathy, but I thought the sorry was sweet and simple. So sorry. That's what we're getting today. Anyway, so I'm going to tag on that little tiny banner die that says "for your loss," and I'll put some weights on that for right now to let that weigh in, and then I'll stamp a sentiment on the inside of the card. And I think it was something like "thinking of you," or sorry for your loss, thinking of you. I can't remember what it was. But it took me forever to decide on which sayings that I want. Sometimes too many sayings can be a little overwhelming and you don't never know quite what to put onto these things. So here I am, just kind of lining it up the best that I possibly can. I pull out my T-square ruler, and once I'm happy I pick it up with the Misti, and I kind of condition a little bit with the heel of my hand, and I apply the ink on 3. Now, any kind of ink in general, I think that if you're going to ink it up, just push lightly against the lettering, just enough to give it an impression. You don't want to completely push it down, as you don't want to smoosh it too hard and ruin the letters. But this little bit here with the measuring of the tape, it's just my lazy way of not having to measure it every single time. Most of the time it's pretty accurate when I do this. Sometimes it's a little off, but it's not a big deal. And you can see that there's a bunch of ink on the back side of the panel. I decided just kind of not waste the panel of paper that I had from my previous video where I tested out the 3 Distress Oxide inks that I got in my order from the Paper Crafters Workshop recently. So I'm just taking these strips of foam tape off my hand and kind of lining them up on the back side. And once I'm happy with that, I'll take a look at it and realize it's missing something. And I'm not sure what, so I decide to go with a little bit of splatter. Now, again, sometimes I get ahead of myself and I don't pull out my make art station, not my makeup station, but my make art station. And I'm going to do a little bit of splattering here. I've got the, what do you call them? The Fine Tech Iridescent watercolor set that I picked up from Beatnik's art supply shop here in my city not too long ago. And I probably use these every time I sit down to play. I absolutely love them, and I look forward to getting more of the Fine Tech watercolors. I believe they have a pearl one that I had my eye on as well, where they looked all white, but they weren't. But I gotta get over there and see Katrina again to see what kind of fun stuff she's got in stock, so hopefully I'll be able to get there sooner than later. Anyway, I'm just going around my card. You can see that there's white over top of the sentiment. I ended up cutting out out of some scrap piece of paper just the backdrop kind of die with the banner die and the backdrop die for the sorry, and kind of covered them up so I wouldn't get the splatter all over them. So once I'm happy with that, I'll pick that up and careful not to smudge too much of it because it's still a little bit damp, but I kind of like how that turned out. So I'll wave it around a little bit, make sure it's a little bit dry, or drier, I should say, and I'll start to peel off the back sides of the panel here. So I want to make sure that I don't get stuff all over my panel, or not my panel, but my card, because I made a mess all over my desk, and sometimes I don't think, I'm just kind of caught up in the moment with this crazy love affair of making cards on the fly, and I don't necessarily dot all my I's and cross my T's when I'm trying to do stuff like this. So I'm going to gloop a bunch of glue on the back side of this, so just in case I need to pull it up, because this foam tape is rather sticky. I believe I got it from the dollar store. So I just put a little bit of Tombo mono glue on the back of that and move it around. You can see I kind of smooshed it the wrong way, so I try to pick it up, and thankfully for that glue I was able to do so. So once I'm happy with the placement, I'll push that down, and then because there's a little bit of a smudging on the card, I'm just going to take whatever's left on my brush and whatever's left over in my pan and just kind of go back and forth just along the bottom and the top. You don't have to do this. It might throw some people off, but I don't know, I was making a mess. I wanted to make a card and I wasn't being too serious about it. So even though it is kind of a serious card, go figure. Anyway, I'm just going back and forth with the little bits left. If you can find this paint palette, I highly recommend getting it. You won't just be disappointed. So there you have that, my shimmery with sympathy, or sorry, my sorry card. My thoughts are with you. There you go. And then there's my finished card. Yay. So if you've enjoyed today's content or found it helpful, please give this video a like. I also welcome you to subscribe, as I post weekly. Here's another video I think you might enjoy. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Take care.